The donkey transformation scene in the Disney version of Pinocchio has got nothing on the puppet transformation scene in this movie. Hey everyone, this is Rabbit as well, Animation Bliss, and welcome to another underrated and obscure cartoon corner. So today's underrated cartoon that I'll be talking about today is Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night. So this movie starts off with Pinocchio, who is turned into a real boy, and he ends up celebrating his birthday with Geppetto. And later on that day, Geppetto tells Pinocchio that he wants to send him to town to give the mayor this jewel box, and so Pinocchio ends up taking the jewel box into town. But unfortunately, he ends up being sidetracked by two con artists named Scallywag and Igor, and Pinocchio ends up giving the jewel box to them. And when Geppetto finds out, he ends up being very angry towards Pinocchio that he ends up grounding him. And because of this, Pinocchio feels really bad about what he did, and he tries to go out and find the jewel box for himself. And along the way, Pinocchio ends up meeting an evil puppet master named Puppetino, who ends up transforming Pinocchio back into a puppet at one point. But thankfully, the good fairy comes in and saves Pinocchio and transforms him back into a real boy. And after that, Pinocchio decides to continue his journey to find the jewel box. And along the way, he meets up with the Emperor of the Night, who wants to transform Pinocchio back into a puppet permanently. Now, Pinocchio has to find a way to save his friends and himself from the Emperor of the Night. So what are my thoughts on Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night? I really enjoyed this movie. So let's talk about what I did like about this film. So the first thing that I liked about this film was the darker tone. Even though Disney's Pinocchio was a pretty dark movie itself, Pinocchio and the Emperor of the Night managed to beat it somewhat by having even more traumatic scenes throughout this movie. Like, you have the infamous scene with Puppetino transforming Pinocchio back into a puppet, and that's often regarded as the scariest scene in the entire movie, and I do agree with that. And then of course you have the Emperor of the Night himself, who's shown as being this demonic character. And I just love how this movie has a much more intense tone to it. And you get a sense of urgency with Pinocchio's situation as you worry about him getting turned into a puppet permanently throughout this film, because it did happen one time with him and it was terrifying. So yeah, I love how dark the tone of this movie is, as it made the movie even more interesting to watch. And it made this movie really stand out from the original fairy tale. Another thing that I liked about this movie was the theme. So the theme of this movie is basically freedom of choice. And throughout this movie, Pinocchio has to make a lot of difficult choices that will alter his life forever. Like, at first he has to decide about whether or not he should give the jewel box to Scallywag and Igor. And then he has to decide about whether he should save his friends or become a puppet forever during the climax of the film. So I do like how this film explores the themes of freedom of choice and does it in such an effective way. And then another thing that I liked about this film were the antagonists. So the main antagonists in this film were of course Puppetino and the Emperor of the Night. And as I mentioned before, Puppetino was a pretty effective antagonist in the first half of the film. Like, he did that infamous scene of him transforming Pinocchio back into a puppet, and that's regarded as a terrifying scene. And I think they did a really good job in making that scene very terrifying for the audience, as a lot of people who have seen that movie when they were younger do remember that scene very well. And then of course I love the Emperor of the Night himself, as he's shown to be this demonic creature who wants to transform Pinocchio back into a puppet forever and take away his free will. And I think that James Earl Jones' voice for the Emperor of the Night was very well done, and he did a really good job of making the Emperor of the Night sound so threatening throughout the film. Now, the biggest issue that I have with this film was that the plot is pretty much a rehash of the original fairy tale. Even though there were some elements in this movie that were a bit different from the original fairy tale, like you have the Emperor of the Night replacing the coachman, and of course you have Scallywag and Igor replacing the fox and the cat from the original fairy tale, this movie still hits the same beats as the original fairy tale. Like, you still have Pinocchio trying to learn the difference between right and wrong in this film. You still have Pinocchio go to this island when boys can misbehave, and you still have Pinocchio be conned by two con artists like what happened in the original fairy tale. So yeah, there's a lot of similar beats from the original fairy tale in this film that made it seem like this film is more like a rehash rather than a sequel to the original fairy tale. Before I give out my overall thoughts on this film, I would like to let you guys know that there are affiliate links in the description box below if you want to add any of the movies that are mentioned or linked in this video to your movie collection. If you buy any of the movies that are mentioned in this video using the affiliate links in the description box below, then I will receive a small commission that would greatly help with this channel. So please feel free to use the affiliate links in the description box below if you want to add any of these movies to your movie collection. All aboard the Animated Social Media Express. Want to send some tweets my way? Then follow me on Twitter. Want to join our special animation community? Then join our Discord group, Animation Bliss. Want to see more updates on our YouTube videos? Then check out our Facebook group, Animation Bliss. Want to download on everything going on with this channel? Then check all the above. And now, back to the video. But overall, I really enjoyed Pinocchio and the Emperor in the Night. While the plot itself is pretty much a rehash of the original fairy tale's plot, I do love the fact that this film has a much darker tone compared to the original fairy tale. The antagonists were very well done, and I really like how the film approached this theme of freedom of choice. So if you're looking for a more darker, edgier take on the famous Pinocchio fairy tale, then I definitely recommend Pinocchio and the Emperor in the Night. So those are my thoughts on Pinocchio and the Emperor in the Night, and tell me in the comments down below, have you seen Pinocchio and the Emperor in the Night? And if you have, did you like this movie? Did you hate this movie? And what's your favorite movie interpretation of Pinocchio? Please let me know in the comments down below. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. This is Rabbit Ball Animation Bliss, and I'll see you guys later. Hey animation fans, like this video? If you want to see more animated content from this channel, then please hit that big old animated subscribe button so that you can get more awesome content from this channel.